Now, breaking overnight, President Trump, he got up, it was the State of the Nation address, and he spent 100 minutes talking about America and all the things that were wrong. And I have to say, Ellie, I found some of it very, very amusing, quite frightening, but he did present it in an amusing way because it is all this business of waste and wokeness and whatever. And he certainly seems to be taking it on.
Well, if you think it's only been 6 weeks and he could stand there for, as you say, 100 minutes and reel off everything that he was working on. Yeah. It was impressive, if you think of it.
Yeah, and I think he could have reeled off more if he'd have wanted to. He also said that President Zelensky is willing to sign a deal with America on those minerals.
Well, this morning, the Mail Online are also reporting that the United States has banned Britain from sharing intelligence from Washington with Ukraine.
It's also reported the president is planning to relinquish leadership of NATO, instead urging Britain and France to step forward and take more responsibility.
Well, as we were saying, in the past few hours, the president gave that address to US Congress. GBNews' Evan Dale has the latest.
America is back.
It was always going to be an address made for the media.
And our country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again.
But moments into the speech, it was interrupted by Democrat Representative Al Green. It then wasn't long before the president took aim towards the previous administration.
And under Joe Biden, the worst president in American history.
In the midst of reeling off his administration's progress to date, he hailed the beginning of a revolution.
Free speech in America is back. What I have just described is only a small fraction of the common sense revolution that is now, because of us, sweeping the entire world.
President Trump also brought up the contentious issue of tariffs.
If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one.
He also announced plans for a defense dome similar to that of Israel.
I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland.
And then came the news on Ukraine that everybody was waiting for.
Today I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time.
Donald Trump also made a teenage brain cancer survivor's dream come true.
I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Evan Dale, GB News.
A bit of humanity intermingled with that speech, and along with lots of serious things about not sharing intelligence with Ukraine. Freddie Gray's with us now in the studio, and Freddie, I thought where he was good, he talks about a common sense revolution, and whether you're for Donald Trump generally or against him, it's very hard to argue against some of the areas where he shows big donations are being made for really ridiculously stupid causes.
Yes, he's on the winning side of the argument here, and the polls suggest that's the case. His approval rating is growing to its highest ever levels, and it was a sort of triumphant moment from him. He had to make it the longest, didn't he? Had to be record-breakingly long.
He didn't look as if he was running out of steam either.
He doesn't. I mean, he is extraordinarily energetic for a man of his age. I think probably the biggest story of the night was the behaviour of the Democrats, who were really acting like silly children. Holding up signs, booing that lovely boy suffering from cancer. They didn't applaud that moment even. It's almost as if they're on a mission to make themselves as unpopular as possible. And really what that speaks to is the way that Donald Trump, through this sort of massive bombardment of executive orders, dramatic moves and so on, he's left them completely wrong-footed. And obviously there's a long way...
So they're on the wrong side of the argument, you think, when you poll public opinion on this?
Yes, I mean, they're on the side of the argument of spending government taxpayer money on completely ridiculous woke projects. They're very anti-Elon Musk. There is some concern on the public about Elon Musk's role, but at the moment, people just see this waste and they see it being cut, and they like that. Donald Trump is a very, very effective politician, and the sooner the Democrats come to terms with that, the better off they'll be.
Well, you can see that he's an effective politician, can't you? Bearing in mind that he's only been president for the second time for 6 weeks, and he could speak for 90 minutes about what he's achieved so far and what he's looking to achieve. Talking about the Democrats, a number of them walked out at the mention of Ukraine, and President Trump was talking about a letter from Zelensky, which it looks as though Sir Keir Starmer had quite a heavy hand in helping him with yesterday, where Zelensky praised his strong leadership and said he's ready to sign that minerals deal. Do you reckon that will happen soon?
Well, it looks as though it's back on. I mean, it's been this ridiculous drama. But this is the thing with Donald Trump. When you look past all the sort of diplomatic theatrics, the ridiculous temper tantrum in the Oval Office on Friday, the realities don't really change. He's pushing Ukraine and Russia towards peace, and both of them are coming close to accepting it. Zelensky yesterday folded. He had to fold because without American backing, Ukraine's going to lose this war. And I think the thing that people are getting wrong about this whole argument is they are confusing peace and justice. They think it's not fair on the Ukrainians that this is happening to them. It's not fair that they have to accept this. But peace isn't the same as justice, and peace is a good and noble goal, I believe, and Donald Trump is pushing towards that.
But many people don't want to see surrender of Ukraine to Russia.
Well, yes, the argument against surrender would be that it's appeasement and that Vladimir Putin will come back for more. But the argument against that would be, what if Vladimir Putin wins this war, despite Western efforts to stop him, which at the moment it looks as though he will do.
Well, certainly help him if the United Kingdom withholds intelligence information destined for Ukraine, which America is not asking them to do, telling them to do.
It's an order, that, yeah, which is very interesting, because I think a lot of American intelligence officials are frustrated with British intelligence for sharing too quickly, sharing too readily with Ukraine details, information that it wants to hold. And this shows a very interesting change between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. The Trump administration are suspicious of Ukraine. They're suspicious about the blowing up of Nord Stream, the pipeline. And there's something called REL UKR, which means releasable to Ukraine. And that's a certain type of intelligence that Britain had permission to share with Ukraine. That's now been banned. Britain has been banned from doing that. And that, I think, tells you a lot about what the US administration think, not just about Ukraine, but about Britain. We're seen as a slightly unreliable partner. And that's bad news, because Britain takes great pride in our part of the Five Eyes, intelligence sharing. We're a key ally to America on that front. That is slightly in danger at the moment.
What did you make of J.D. Vance's comments yesterday? Sparked a row with them, disrespecting the British Armed Forces by talking about the peacekeeping forces on the ground in Ukraine, obviously been pledged by Britain and by France, saying that we're random countries that haven't fought a war in 30 or 40 years. Well,
there's a lot to like about J.D. Vance. He's very for free speech, but he does have this unfortunate habit of shooting his mouth off in an unpleasant way. I think what his comment on that Fox News interview, he's since clarified that he did not mean Britain or France.
So they're the only countries that pledged.
But it's very hard to know who exactly he meant. I think the really interesting question for J.D. Vance to answer is, when did America last win a war? Not since the Second World War has America won a significant conflict. And actually, that's the real story here, because J.D. Vance himself served in Iraq, as did Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defence, as did Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of Intelligence. And they all served at a low level. They weren't senior commanders in these wars. And they've learned the hard way that America can't actually change the world in whatever way it wants to. And that has reshaped their whole attitude towards this conflict. It's reshaped their whole attitude towards Ukraine, to Russia, and so on. We're entering a far more realistic phase of American diplomacy, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
See, Freddie, talking about reshaping, this common sense revolution, which he talks about, I think that's got legs. And whether it would ever be introduced in the United Kingdom or not, I doubt it would be. But I really do think we would benefit from it. And when politicians talk about we're broke, we haven't got any money to spend, Trump stands up and he gives that list of things, ridiculous things, which are being funded by huge amounts of money, and he's putting an end to it overnight. No debate, the way we would have the hand-wringing and angst and whatever in this country. But do you think we would benefit from a common-sense revolution in the United Kingdom?
Absolutely we would. I think a lot of British voters look at what Trump's doing with Doge and the slashing of absurd, wasteful spending, and they think, I wish we had something like that. Sadly, we don't. We have a Labour government that seems committed to wasteful spending. Some might argue that there's an opportunity now with America pulling back from the world for Britain to really step up and be a soft power force in the world. But we don't really have the money to do it. And what little money we do have, we seem to be wasting, often on very frivolous projects.
But I always maintain we do have the money. It's just we spend it in strange areas and we use it all up.
Well, we do have the money. We don't have kind of American spending power.
No.
But we are wasting it in very strange ways. We're running something called the Spectator Project Against Frivolous Funding, or SPAF for short. And we've uncovered some pretty amazing stuff. I mean, for instance, we've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds last year helping mental health cases in Canada. Canada has a lot of money. Why are we doing that?
Why are we
when we've got a mental health crisis back here in Britain?
Yeah.
So, yes, we are extremely wasteful, and some sort of major audit of our government spending would be great.
And I do have this thing, the older I get, the more I believe in this. We cannot change the world. We won't make a darn bit of difference to the world, and it won't make a darn bit of difference to us. We should look after ourselves and our own borders, worry about our own household, and not be trying to run everybody else's households.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you're talking about Ash Wednesday. They're good Christian message there.
Yes.
Take the speck out of your own eye.
Freddie Gray, thank you very much indeed. Freddie's going to be here throughout the morning, and if you've got anything to say, remember, have your say. We love to hear from you, and we'll put some of those points, whether you agree or disagree with what Freddie is having to say. What would you cut back on, for instance?
Well, the Green Initiative going to India, which is millions of pounds, we saw the other day, didn't we? India has its own space programme.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's a very interesting one.
Absolutely.
But you've probably heard of your own, so let us know what you think.
As Freddie was saying there, Canada, so mental health's a great thing to tackle, but here in the UK...
We have a crisis, don't we?
We've got a crisis. What are we worrying about what's going on in Canada for? Not our problem.